Have you ever wondered what the most terrifying planet in our solar system really is? Most people would say Venus because it can melt lead. Others would choose Jupiter with storms larger than Earth. But scientists have another answer: a world so strange, so unforgiving that almost every law we experience on Earth seems to break apart. A place where one single day lasts longer than an entire year. A planet where the sun can appear to stop, reverse its direction, and then continue moving again. A world that is blasted by intense solar radiation, swings between unimaginable heat and freezing darkness, and somehow still hides water ice. This is Mercury, the closest planet to the sun, and one of the greatest mysteries in our solar system. Everything you're about to see is based on real scientific discoveries made by NASA's Messenger spacecraft, the first mission ever to orbit Mercury and reveal its hidden secrets. Let's begin. For centuries, Mercury remained one of the least understood planets in the solar system, not because scientists weren't interested, but because reaching Mercury is unbelievably difficult. At first, that doesn't make much sense. After all, Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. Shouldn't it be the easiest destination? In reality, it's exactly the opposite. Earth races through space at nearly 30 kilometers every second. Mercury moves even faster, reaching almost 59 kilometers per second during part of its orbit. If a spacecraft flies directly toward Mercury, it doesn't simply arrive. It arrives moving far too fast. Instead of entering orbit, it would fly past the planet and disappear into deep space. To slow down enough would require an enormous amount of fuel, making the mission almost impossible. NASA found another solution. The spacecraft would use the gravity of other planets as giant cosmic brakes. It flew past Earth, then Venus, twice, and finally Mercury itself, 3 separate times. Each close flyby stole a little of the spacecraft's speed, carefully reshaping its orbit around the sun. After traveling nearly 7 years through space, covering billions of kilometers, Messenger finally reached its destination in 2011. For the first time in human history, a spacecraft successfully entered orbit around Mercury. And almost immediately, the surprises began. From a distance, Mercury looks surprisingly similar to our moon. Gray, covered with craters, ancient, silent. But appearances can be incredibly deceptive. Its diameter measures only 4,879 kilometers. That makes it the smallest planet in the solar system. In fact, 2 moons are actually larger than Mercury itself: Jupiter's moon, Ganymede, and Saturn's moon, Titan. Yet despite being smaller, Mercury contains far more mass. Why? Because Mercury is incredibly dense. Around 70% of the planet is made of metal. Only about 30% is rocky material. That makes Mercury the second densest planet in the entire solar system, second only to Earth. Because Mercury is so much smaller, its surface gravity is only about 38% of Earth's. But don't let that fool you into thinking Mercury is a place humans could ever survive, because beneath your feet lies one of the largest planetary cores ever discovered. Scientists estimate that Mercury's enormous iron core fills nearly 85% of the planet's radius. It's almost as if Mercury is nothing more than a gigantic metal sphere, wrapped inside an unusually thin shell of rock. No other rocky planet is built quite like this. For decades, scientists struggled to explain how such a planet could even exist. Messenger was about to change that forever. As the spacecraft continued mapping Mercury's surface, another mystery slowly revealed itself. Everywhere scientists looked, they found scars, millions of them. Impact craters of every size, stretching across nearly the entire planet. Unlike Earth, Mercury has almost no atmosphere. There is no wind, no rain, nothing to erase these ancient wounds. Every crater remains almost exactly where it formed, like pages in a history book written billions of years ago. But among all of them, one stands above the rest: the Caloris Basin, a colossal impact crater nearly 1,550 kilometers across, large enough to stretch farther than the distance from New York City to Miami. The collision fractured Mercury's crust, triggered enormous lava flows, and built mountain rings rising more than 2 kilometers above the surrounding surface. Yet perhaps the strangest discovery wasn't inside the crater, it was on the exact opposite side of the planet. And that was only the beginning. Stretching across Mercury's surface are enormous cliffs known as Lobat scarps. Some extend for hundreds of kilometers, others rise more than 3 kilometers high. These cliffs tell an extraordinary story. Billions of years ago, Mercury's enormous iron core slowly cooled. As the interior lost heat, it began to shrink. The rocky crust could not shrink with it. Instead, it cracked, folded, and slowly collapsed over itself. Imagine the skin of an apple drying as the fruit inside shrinks. Wrinkles begin to appear everywhere. Mercury experienced something similar, only on a planetary scale. Even today, scientists believe the planet continues shrinking, very slowly, almost too slowly to measure. Every second, Mercury is slowly losing part of itself to space. And yet, something impossible was discovered there. Water. For decades, scientists believed Mercury was far too hot for ice to survive. But MESSENGER revealed something astonishing. Deep inside craters near Mercury's North Pole, scientists found enormous deposits of frozen water ice. How can ice survive on the closest planet to the Sun? Because Mercury's axis is almost perfectly upright. Unlike Earth, which tilts by about 23.5 degrees, Mercury tilts by only about 0.03 degrees. That tiny tilt means sunlight never reaches the deepest parts of certain polar craters. For billions of years, those crater floors have remained in permanent darkness, among the coldest places anywhere in the inner solar system. A frozen secret. A completely different explanation began to emerge, one that sounded almost like science fiction. Perhaps Mercury wasn't born where it is today. Perhaps billions of years ago, the young planet formed much farther from the Sun, in a region crowded with growing worlds, a violent place where enormous planetary embryos constantly collided with one another. Then everything changed. One colossal impact may have struck the young Mercury, blasting away most of its rocky outer layers, leaving behind the gigantic metal core we see today. The damaged planet may then have drifted inward, eventually settling into the scorching orbit it occupies today. For 4 remarkable years, MESSENGER circled Mercury again and again, photographing its surface, measuring its magnetic field, scanning its chemistry, and completely rewriting what scientists believed about the smallest planet in our solar system. Eventually, MESSENGER's fuel began to run out. Without fuel, the spacecraft could no longer adjust its orbit. Its mission was coming to an end. On April 30th, 2015, after traveling billions of kilometers, after surviving the most difficult planetary journey ever attempted, MESSENGER made its final descent. There were no explosions anyone could hear, no atmosphere to create sound, only silence. The spacecraft slammed into Mercury's surface at more than 14,000 kilometers per hour, becoming one more crater on a planet already covered by millions. Even today, that tiny scar remains there, a permanent reminder that humanity once reached the closest planet to the Sun. Yet despite everything MESSENGER discovered, Mercury still refuses to give up all of its secrets. Scientists still don't know exactly why its iron core is so enormous. They still debate where the planet originally formed, and perhaps the greatest mystery is this: if our own solar system can still hide worlds as strange as Mercury, how many impossible planets are waiting beyond it? Mercury reminds us that the universe doesn't have to be enormous to be terrifying. Sometimes the smallest worlds carry the biggest mysteries. Imagine standing there, no wind, no sound, no blue sky, no oceans, no life. Above you, the sun dominates the darkness, more than 3 times larger than it appears from Earth, its radiation pouring endlessly across the barren landscape. Beneath your feet, ancient rock remembers impacts that happened billions of years before Earth was even capable of supporting life. Mercury doesn't hate life, it simply doesn't care that life exists. It is a place where nature operates without mercy, without emotion, without compromise. And perhaps that's the most unsettling truth of all, because Mercury is not unique. It is a reminder of what most of the universe actually looks like: cold, silent, violent, unforgiving. We were simply fortunate enough to be born on the rare exception. The next time you look toward the sun, remember, Just beyond its blinding light, a scorched world continues its endless journey, orbit after orbit, year after year, in absolute silence, waiting, as it has for more than 4.5 billion years.